What is going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of One Deck, One Month featuring Marincess. Quick reminder, if you guys have not seen the episode from last week, I highly recommend you check it out. It was a great episode. I'll leave a link to it up in the top right so you guys can get all caught up on everything that happened last week. But now I want to get you guys caught up on everything that happened this week. I did go to locals this past Tuesday, and I did record all of my matches, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I want to talk about the deck list really quick. There has been several changes made to the build. I want to say I've made maybe like 2 or 3 different builds, and I've tested them all extensively. I've been playing a lot on Dueling Book, and when I mean a lot, like 20, 30, maybe even 40 matches spread out over the past couple of nights. And last night I went to a friend's house to do some more testing, and I think I actually have a really good build that I'm settled on, and that we're going to play it this coming Saturday, well, today basically. And I think as a result of all that testing, I was able to put together, I think, what is our best build yet. I'm really proud of it, and it performs very well. And I think I've managed to fix some of the inherent problems the deck has had. And one of those main problems is how fragile the normal summon is. Not everybody's going to pick up on it, but the players that do, they're going to punish us hard, and I wanted to have a counter for that in the main deck. But I've also been able to add a new addition to the deck thanks to my friend Johnny for hooking us up, that I would not have been able to get otherwise, because this card is extremely expensive. To be honest, I was hoping it would get reprinted in the tin, but it didn't. And it's not access code, although I did secure one of those for $90. Shoutouts to Matt and Ask for the hookup. But we're able to get our hands on a play set of Magician's Souls. Now, I didn't buy these, but my friend Johnny, like I said, is letting me borrow these. This is a card I've been wanting to play in this deck, I think ever since I started playing it, to be totally honest. I just could never get my hands on it because of how incredibly expensive it is. And I'm still really happy to see that it's still extremely expensive and unobtainable. But that doesn't matter. We've got our set to work with for now, and I'm grateful for that. But for those that don't know, the reason why we would play Magician's Souls is because we often end with 3 equipped monsters on our end board, and they are treated as spell cards. So at the end of our combo, we can use Magician's Souls while it's already in the field, because we would summon it at the start of our turn. Otherwise, we would get locked into Waters and Cyberse, etc. So we would start our turn with this card, and then once our combo is done, we send off 2 equips and draw 2 cards, hopefully Hand Traps, Bell, Ash, Veiler, or Wave to be even better. And yeah, this card is just really awesome in the deck, and I really wasn't liking it, honestly. Like a day or 2 ago, testing last night did kind of change my mind on the card, and I want to say it's mainly because of the target that I was using to send off Magician's Souls. I was looking at medium of the Ice Barrier, but since then I've made a much better decision in what our spellcaster target is going to be, and it's actually going to be the Iris Sword Soul. And I just thought to myself, this makes so much more sense. It's not really a dead card if we draw it, because it is essentially a hand trap. We are playing cards like Valor and Wave, which can negate our opponent's monsters, making this card live if we draw it. And not to mention, since I am playing Monster Reborn, we do have the possibility of sending it off the souls and then reviving it back from the graveyard, which is really awesome. And yeah, with the medium of the Ice Barrier card, I decided to drop it because, like, there's no synergy with it being water. Maybe if I was playing a Swap Frog engine, I would play it because I could pitch it off a Swap Frog. I thought about playing Fog King because it is a normal summon if it, needs to be. It can stop Nibiru, and it can be revived off of Anemone. But I think since we're playing a very hand trap heavy build, Iris Sword Soul just made the most sense because it is a spellcaster monster at the end of the day. So I think this build is really awesome. I wanted to bring you guys up to speed on that. Other than that, I don't think there's really too much that has changed. Forbidden Dress is in the main deck yet again. And the reason why I'm playing Forbidden Dress is mainly because, like I said, our normal summon is extremely fragile, and if they hit it with a Chuche or try to Gamma our normal summon, just so long as we can keep the body means we get to at least play and we don't outright lose. And sometimes we just need to get into a Link 1 to be able to get our engine going. But yeah, other than that, that's all I really want to talk about the deck list. I'll throw a picture of it up on the screen here just really quickly for you guys to see. Extra deck, I want to say, is pretty much the same, except I am playing 2 Sea Angel right now. The only reason I'm playing 2 Sea Angel is because there are times where having the second Angel comes up. If they ash the first one, next turn we can go into another one to try to retrieve the field spell instead of trying to have to like put Angel back, then re-summon it. That allows us to put back other important cards like Blue Slug and Anemone, or even Bubble Reef. And I'm also playing Linkuriboh because of the 4-Mud Skipper. It's very susceptible to Imperm or Valor, and if we don't play a card like Linkuriboh, we just outright lose if they negate our Skipper. So playing Linkuriboh is kind of like a failsafe, and I think everything else is pretty standard. I'm back to 3 Slug too, just because that card helps out a ton in the grind game, which we already excel at, but sometimes you do need the 3rd Slug. But yeah, I think that's everything I want to talk about. Now let's go ahead and go over our matchups. Okay, so like I said, I did go to my locals this past Tuesday. Like usual, I did record my matches, as I think I've already told you guys. And we ended up going 3-1, which is great, and we did secure another 15 store credit. So round 1, I played against Dogmatica Crusadia, and I believe I lost that one 2-1. I'll explain why later. Round 2, we played against Invoke Shaddoll Dogmatica. We won that 2-0. Then Earth Machine round 3, which I actually got paired up against my brother, which you hate to see, but it is what it is. We won that one 2-0 as well. And then round 4, I played against a Cyber Dragon deck, which, to be honest, didn't go as bad as I thought it was going to, just because Contact Fusion is pretty scary against our deck, but we ended up taking it 2-0. So normally I would go into a lot of detail analyzing a lot of these matches, but if I'm being totally honest with you guys, there really isn't that much to go over. The first thing I want to talk about is in round 1, game 3, the deciding game for obviously who took the match. I did not open a single starter card, just a hand full of hand traps and no starters, which you hate to see. Couldn't even play the game. I was able to slow my opponent down here and there with hand traps. It was just turn after turn, top deck a hand trap, top deck a hand trap, and I proceeded to lose that way, which is really unfortunate. That does happen. It feels like a lot. Maybe it's just negative impact bias, but I really hate when that happens. And that's why I'm really glad we're on a card like Magician's Souls and also Upstart Goblin in the main, since we do have a lot more draw power, and we don't need to worry about the negative side effects of cards like Desires. Now we fast forward to round 2, where we played against that Invoke Shaddoll Dogmatica deck. Something really awesome happened in game 2. My opponent normal summons Alistair, and I believe I hit it with an Effect Valor. He follows up with Shaddoll Fusion to summon a Winda, and I believe he just passes after that. Now I'm thinking, wow, Winda's really strong against us. I'm only going to be able to get into Blue Slug, and that's pretty much it. So I think I normal Seahorse, go into Slug, add back Seahorse, and just pass turn basically. Or no, I think I made Sea Angel with 4-Mud Skipper actually. It wasn't Seahorse, because I normal the Skipper, reveal Sea Angel, go into Sea Angel, Chainlink 1 Angel, Chainlink 2 Skipper, add Scripton, add Field Spell. And then we just pass back and forth for, I want to say, like 4 turns. Yeah, 4 turns of passing back and forth until I draw into a wave, which I set alongside, I think, a Bell. And luckily for me, he's not able to do too much either, because I do have hand traps to stop any advances he's trying to make. So again, it's just battle phase poke into the set hand trap. I think I take a little bit more damage from another Alistair he had, which I had to stop for as well. And then on my turn, I normal summon a Seahorse, link for the Blue Slug, add back Seahorse, and then flip up the set wave to negate his Winda. We do full combo, and we take the game right then and there. And then the only thing I want to say in round 3 is, you know, unfortunately I did get paired up against my brother, which sucks because he's still learning the game since he hasn't played in like several years, and he was on Earth Machine, which is obviously a favorite deck of mine, and I know every single thing the deck does. But I normaled a 4-Mud Skipper at one point. He did have the Imperm, he told me, but he didn't know that Imperm was the correct play on the Skipper sense. And if I'm being totally honest, I wasn't playing Linkuriboh at the time, so I would have got hard punished if he would have hit it with an Imperm, and I would have had to pass. But he didn't see that because, you know, he just doesn't know how my deck works. He didn't know when to use the hand traps, the interruptions. He didn't know if he should use them immediately or hold them till later on. And unfortunately, holding them till later on was the incorrect move, and he ended up losing because of that. But, you know, if he had a little more experience against our deck, he would have just beat us that easily in game 2. And then round 4, Cyber Dragon matchup wasn't too crazy. I did get hit with contact fusions and kaijus quite a bit, but luckily he did not have any follow-ups most of the games, and any follow-ups he did have, again, I did have some hand traps for, and again, we're just able to apply pressure. And I think we ended up taking game 2 with the help of Wonderheart securing that extra damage we needed, and that's pretty much about it. So again, not too much to talk about on Tuesday, but we did secure a nice 3-1 finish. It is Saturday currently right now, and I'm hoping we can at least do the same, if not better, because our build is really, really good right now, and I'm feeling very, very confident in it. Oh, one more thing too before I end up getting ready to go to locals today. I want to talk to you guys like in brief detail about some of the other builds I put together, more specifically about some of the other tech cards I was trying. The first card I was trying was a card called Link Slayer, and the main reason I was trying out Link Slayer was because in theory it does help the deck go second, and it's kind of a pseudo Silent Angler / Ready Fusion. The reason I ended up liking it more than Ready Fusion and Silent Angler was specifically because it was a Cyberse monster. There have been too many times where I tried to step up into Splash Mage, but I just don't have the second Cyberse monster to do it. So in theory, Link Slayer was a card to try and fix that issue, but it ultimately just wasn't that good, so I took it out of the main deck. And that reminds me too, something I didn't talk about earlier. You might have noticed that Ready Fusion and Silent Angler are not in the main deck anymore. Now, that's not to say I don't like those cards. I still think Ready Fusion, if anything, has the most merit to go back into the main deck at the time being. I think Silent Angler is just honestly not needed, if I'm being totally honest. But I just cut those out of the main deck right now and play some more consistency cards like the Magician's Souls, other hand traps, Upstart Goblin, Triple Tactics Talents as well, because we need that card to punish people who Ash our Signet, which we can use as bait sometimes. And yeah, I think that's everything I want to say. I'm going to get ready for locals now, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, well, this is definitely a pleasant surprise. It is 5:15, and I actually have a few minutes to sit down and talk to you guys since everything is all packed up and ready to go. And the main thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the possibility of adding in a sort of like theory dump segment where I get to talk to you guys about all the engines and different cards that I've been testing out and have liked, or maybe didn't like, or cards that I want to try or in theory are still possibly really good to try, what our worst matchups are, what problems have I had with the deck and have I fixed them, or if I still have problems, how can I fix them, or even if they're fixable, right? So I do want to dedicate a sort of small segment of this video, possibly after locals, to kind of go over those things. My only concern is, the only thing that's kind of prevented me from doing that is as you guys know, I tend to ramble on a lot about these things, and I just don't want it to be too long. So I'll try my best to condense it as much as I can. But let me know if this is something you guys want to see like every week, or maybe right smack dab in the middle of the series, or maybe once at the beginning, once at the end. I don't know. How frequently do you want these things? I guess you have to wait and find out how it goes after locals. And also another thing too, I am going to be going to a locals, like a town over tomorrow, actually, very, very early. I think their local starts at noon. We got about an hour drive to get there. You guys will see how that locals goes at the start of the next week, because it won't be included in this week. So keep an eye out for episode 3 so you guys can see how that tournament goes. But I'm feeling pretty confident, and tonight should definitely be a good gauge to see how well we could possibly do tomorrow on Sunday. So yeah, really quickly just wanted to update you guys on that. And I got like a few more things I have to do before I leave, and then we're heading out. So I'll talk to you guys after our tournament, or actually I'll talk to you guys at locals probably after round 1 or round 2. We'll just see how things go, man. I'm feeling pretty good. Leave a good luck like right now, okay? You got to do it right now. So here we are in round 1, and I had the pleasure of playing against my good friend Partho, who was playing the brand new B Trooper deck, a deck that I have some experience against. I played it, a couple times on the ladder and against some other people in IRL testing. So luckily, going into this match, I had a decent idea of what the cards did, and that definitely helped me when it came to, hitting certain cards with hand traps. But just to make things simple, we did win the die roll, and I did go first by opening up with the Magician's Souls, dumping Iris Sword Soul, then normal summoning Blue Tang to go ahead and send the Seahorse, and we pretty much proceeded to do our full combo. We did not hit the unaffected board, but that really doesn't matter too much. We were able to climb into Anemone, and we used the field spell on Anemone summon to equip both Sea Angel and Slug. Right then and there, we draw 2, and there's basically 2 main reasons as to why I use Magician's Souls when I summon Anemone, and the first reason is if I draw into a Mandarin, I can bring back the Sea Angel, then summon the Mandarin, then make Crystal Heart, then make the unaffected Bubble Reef. But if I don't draw into it, then it's just business as usual, bring back the Splash Mage. And of course, I don't want to use Magician's Souls once we've summoned out Bubble Reef, because I want Bubble Reef to have the most amount of attack it possibly can have. So everything resolves. Our opponent has actually no interruptions for us, and we pass turn. During the standby phase, we do banish the Coral Anemone to draw an additional card, and I believe we also had one set. I think it might have been a Forbidden Dress. But my opponent starts with the normal summon of Scout Buggy, which I do hit with an Effect Veiler. He then summons Twin Bow the attacker and links into the Armor Horn, which I do negate the effect to gain an additional normal summon with the Wave. And my opponent really can't do much else from there. He basically just passes turn, and I bring back Anemone on my turn, go into transcode, and he sees the writing on the wall and knows that access code, the one who talks a little bit too much, is on the way. So he scoops, and we head into game 2. And of course, as we move to game 2, my opponent does decide to go first, obviously to be expected at this point. My opening hand, I believe, was Phantasme, Cyanet Mining, Forbidden Dress, Magician's Souls, and one other card. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's hard to get a look at, but my opponent starts with Galaxy Worm, and of course I don't have any hand traps for it, so that does resolve. He then links into the Armor Horn, so Phantasme becomes live. I draw into, I think, Effect Veiler and Ash Blossom, which is just honestly almost too good to be true. He then attempts to use the effective Armor Horn to gain the additional normal. I do negate with Veiler. He summons Aztekapede and unfortunately has to pass after that. On my turn, I lead with Magician's Souls, sending a copy of Iris Sword Soul. I then use Cyanet Mining, discarding, I believe, another Magician's Souls I had that searches me Blue Tang. I normal Blue Tang, send the Seahorse, link into the Blue Slug, add back the Seahorse, and I think my Tang reveals another Tang. We summon the Seahorse, go into Sea Angel, and then we, continue about our normal combo. No interruptions again whatsoever. Splash Mage brings out the Seahorse. We then link into Anemone, field spell to equip again the Slug and Angel. And then here we use Magician's Souls to go ahead and draw 2. We bring back Splash Mage and go into Bubble Reef. Now, for a moment, I thought maybe I could have gone for the OTK here if I would have made Wonderheart, especially with the help of Phantasme. But since he did have 2 bodies on board, I don't think there was any way we could have possibly gone for the OTK, even with the help of Wonderheart. So we just stuck to the game plan, made Bubble Reef, and equipped our 3 monsters to it, and basically just went into the battle phase to clear his Armor Horn and his Aztekapede. And after that, we set another card and passed. My opponent leads with the Feather Duster, which is a little frightening, but, not really too bad at the end of the day. I do chain the Dress to make it so my Bubble Reef cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, which is already pretty good right off the bat. My opponent starts with Arbalest, brings back Galaxy Worm, links into the Inzektor Link, and equips the Resonance Insect. So he's definitely starting to get his engine going, but he's going to have to work a little bit harder than that to try to break our board. He does bring back the Armor Horn, which does allow him to banish 3 monsters, and that triggers our Bubble Reef to gain 1,800 attack since 3 monsters were banished face up. So he's going to have a really hard time outing this card in the battle phase. Now, as a result of him doing this, he did get to banish a copy of Resonance Insect, which was going to net him a send. And I didn't really know which was better to stop, the banish effect of Resonance Insect or the graveyard effect when it's just sent. So I decided to burn an Ash Ash there, and that actually ended up being incorrect looking back, because the other effect was going to net him the search of a sticky string kaiju, and since he did have one equipped on the field thanks to the Insector link, he was able to link off his other monsters into Atlas to trigger the Resonance Insect. Fast forward a little bit, he's able to get Sting Lancer out onto the field to search the counter trap. He does kaiju over top of our Bubble Reef, and he attempts to leave the main phase, where luckily I have a copy of the Primal Being in hand to come down and wipe the entire field. Now, there was only one problem. The token was like 10,200 attack and 6,100 defense, so the only way I was really going to be getting over it is if I had some insanely massive Bubble Reef, or of course Access Code himself. So on my turn, I start with the 4-Mud Skipper, and I'm able to climb into a Transcode Talker without getting locked into waters whatsoever, and we pop the token, swinging for 53 and 3,000 for more than game. So we're able to take this match 2-0 and rather quickly, so let's go ahead and move on. Alright, so just to recap our round 2 matchup, we played against DDD. Game 1, we did our full combo with no interruptions, and then on his following turn, DDD being the combo deck it is, we had I think 2 hand traps for him, and he was not able to play through. I think I had Ash and Meister, so we take that game relatively easily, and we just follow up with an Access Code OTK on the next turn. We had no interruptions, so it just goes through very, very easily, and it's a very swift Game 1. Game 2, he goes first. He gets deep into his combo into Cross Sheep, and I hit him with a Nibiru, and he just has to pass after that. And then on my following turn, instead of making Bubble Reef, I actually decide to make Wonder Heart, because he had a 6,200 token. That's a lot of attack. That's hard to get over on turn 1, because usually I can't get to Access Code turn 1 unless I have a ton of extenders, which I didn't really have. So I just went into Wonder Heart, who was unaffected. I used it to block damage when he eventually tried to swing over it with the token, just bring up the anemone, take no damage, it's not destroyed by battle. And then from there, he had to end his turn. We climbed up into Transcode, and since I didn't have Bubble Reef, I didn't have the co-linking arrows, so he was able to chalice the Transcode, which stopped me from getting into Access Code easier. So I had to normal summon either Bell or Meister to get into the Access Code, because I didn't need to use my normal summon that turn. I just used Seahorse to summon Tank from hand. That dumped a Mandarin. We're able to climb up into Splash Mage and then Transcode that way. He had the DD Link, so I had to kind of play around that. Battle phase, I attacked over his Link. He summoned the big purple fusion, went to main phase 2, popped it with Access Code, and passed back. He only had 2,300 life points left, and he did kind of misplay a little bit. I do regret, though, however, normal summoning the Bell. I should have kept the Bell, as it would have been more impactful, because the Meister was okay at stopping a Lamia, but he wasn't able to establish a good enough end board to secure the game right then and there, so he just scooped. And we're currently 2-0. Hopefully we can take that momentum into the next round, and I'll update you guys after round 4. Welcome to round 4, everybody, and I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. This match had a very interesting start to it. So we ended up playing against sort of a Layer of Darkness control deck. I really don't know what else to call it. Just basically a Layer of Darkness deck that, goes off the whole gimmick of your opponent's monsters being all dark. Therefore, you can use your traps that tribute dark monsters in the field, so they can just tribute off your monsters as cost, leaving you with no opportunity to respond, and putting a big emphasis on trying to get rid of Layer of Darkness. But this match started off in, a classic fashion of my opponent setting, I think, for a monster and passing, and I could not do anything because I did not draw a starter, so I had to pass it back and forth between me and my opponent. I want to say for 5 to 6 turns. I did have some interruptions here and there in the form of Ash for a Reckless Greed, a Skullmeister on a Backjack. I literally did not have much at all. Took some damage from a Skarm, and some other monsters, but just not much whatsoever. Until eventually, several turns later, I did draw into a 4-mud skipper, and I believe I had a set Forbidden Dress on the field as well. Now, once I put the skipper on the field, my opponent uses his Lilith Lady of Lament to tribute it off his cost to reveal 2 Reckless Greeds and a Dark Sacrifice, and I give him one of those trap cards at random. I then activate Triple Tactics Talent, which is a card you can imagine has been pretty much dead up until this point. So I go ahead and use it to draw 2, and I draw into a Monster Reborn, a card I was so incredibly happy to be playing at this point. I target the 4-mud skipper to bring it back, and my opponent actually activates Fiend Griefing, and luckily for me, I do have a copy of Ghost Bell for that. I'm fighting off all of his traps to try to at least start playing. So the 4-mud skipper gets brought out, and then on the summon, my man has a Torrential, but he definitely was not expecting the Forbidden Dress to protect it from destruction by card effects. So our 4-mud skipper is sticking to the board, and we're pretty much able to actually start playing Yu-Gi-Oh here, which is pretty crazy. So I reveal Sea Angel, link it into Sea Angel, and then I go ahead and search our field spell and a copy of Scripton. Which I actually didn't search Scripton, I believe, because I already had it in my opening hand. So I just go ahead and summon the Scripton by banishing the 4-mud skipper, and then I go ahead and link into the Splash Mage. Splash Mage brings back the Scripton. I activate the Battle Ocean, and then we go ahead and link into Transcode. Transcode brings back Splash Mage, and at this point, I'm currently surprised I'm even getting this far. His other back row might not be that good. Then we link into Access Code on resolution of the unsummon effect. He does use a Reckless Greed, which is fine with me because it's going to put him on no draws next turn. And then from there, Access Code banishes the Transcode to pop his set, and then we banish the Splash Mage to pop his Lair of Darkness, and from there, I just passed turn. My opponent led with Foolish Burial to dump the Darkest Diabolos, and after that, I think he just set 2 cards and handed it over to me, where on my standby phase, I believe he activated Trap Trick to go ahead and set the Dark Spiritual Art to the board, which basically lets him tribute off a dark monster as cost to draw 2, and I can negate it if I reveal a spell. And luckily for me, I've drawn a lot of cards and gone through a lot of cards in my deck at this point, so when he went to use it, I was able to negate, but unfortunately he did tribute my Access Code off the board because it is a dark monster, not even by a Layer's effect, just a dark monster in general. After that, he passes. I normal summon Seahorse, link for Blue Slug, add back Seahorse, summon Seahorse, and just attack in for 17 and 16 thanks to the help of the Battle Ocean. So I'm just trying to play the simplified game state here, trying to play it around Torrential as much as I can. My opponent actually draws for turn here when he shouldn't have been able to, so we do luckily correct the game state, and that again leaves him on no cards. Then he passes it back to me, where he starts on my turn by using the backjack to reveal a Reckless Greed, which he does decide to set. I then normal summon the Blue Tang, and I don't use its effect. I just go right into the battle phase and attempt to swing in for a game. Of course, he activates the Reckless Greed to try and draw into something that might save him, but he does not. And somehow, we actually take this game 1 here, despite not seeing a starter for what, like 6 turns? I can't believe it. Let's head into game 2. So if you guys thought game 1 was a nail-biter, wait till you guys see how game 2 plays out. My opponent, of course, decides to go first and starts with what might as well be Pot of Greed in his deck, because I'm pretty sure he went into the extra deck once the entire match for a Link Karibo. So he starts with the Extrav, draws 2, sets 5, ends his turn. On my turn, I start with the normal summon of the Seahorse, and I think I just went straight into the battle phase to get in some early damage. Now, I also did open up 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, and while yes, it was tempting to just start firing them off, I knew in my head that I had to hold them for at any point that he got a really good card off of his Lilith, or if he just had Layer of Darkness in general. I needed to make sure I had an out for it. Because that card pretty much prevents me from getting into like Marbled Rock, Bubble Reef, or Wonderheart, since they require water. So I strategically decided to hold on to them. So the battle phase, the attack goes through. I link into Slug. Slug adds back Horse. I go ahead and summon the Horse and summon the Sea Angel. And to be honest, I probably should have stopped while I was ahead to try to play around Torrential, because he was definitely going to wait for me to commit a little bit more. And, doing what I did into a field of 5 back row was a little too greedy, I think. And surprisingly, when I summon the Sea Angel, he doesn't have anything, so I get the field spell, but I link into Splash Mage, and I revive off of Splash Mage, and then he goes ahead and hits me with the Torrential. So that was a big mistake. Should have played around the TT a little bit more. After that, I pass. My opponent draws. He passes. And then I start with 1-for-1, discarding 4-Mud Skipper to go ahead and summon Mandarin. Mandarin sticks to the board. I link for the Slug. Slug adds back the Seahorse. And I summon the Seahorse. And then he activates Metaverse on the summon to go ahead and activate Layer of Darkness. And then from here, I was debating on whether or not I should use the Cosmic, but I decided to hold on to it as I linked into another Sea Angel. I followed that up by activating the Field Spell, and then I think I attempted to go into the battle phase where he activated a trap card that tributed a monster, and then he activated a trap card, which I actually forget its name, but it like tributes a monster and then pops another card. He was able to tribute off my Blue Slug, then pop my Sea Angel, leaving me with basically nothing. After that, I decided to use the Cosmic once he burned through a little bit more back row and banished the Layer of Darkness, and after that, I just passed turn, and my opponent proceeded to just set one and pass. And on my turn, I go ahead and activate Signet Mining, discarding Triple Tactics Talents to go ahead and search a blue Tang. I normal summon the blue Tang to send a copy of Seahorse and punch in for 17. Again, Tang is being boosted by the Field Spell. After that, I decide to just pass, trying to play around TT even more. My opponent starts with Extrav. I go ahead and hit it with an Ash. And after that, he just passes turn. On my turn, I link into a Blue Slug, Chainlink 1 Slug, Chainlink 2 Tang, add back a Seahorse. And my opponent has a Lost Wind for the Blue Slug, and I do not hit anything off of my Blue Tang. Then I swing in for 17 with Blue Slug and end my turn. My opponent draws, sets 2 cards, and ends his turn. On my turn, I just again decide to play conservatively and try to play around his traps and just go into the battle phase and attack again for 17 with Slug, and then we pass our turn. Our opponent normal summons Lilith, the Lady of Lament, goes into the battle phase to attack over my Slug for a whopping 50 points of damage, because the Lost Wind did actually have the attack of my Blue Slug, only making it 950, which I actually did forget about this in editing and in the commentary up until now, so I do apologize for that. But he does again get over the Slug, set a few cards, and end his turn. I normal summon the blue Tang. I don't use the effect, and I go into the battle phase here to attack over his Lilith for an easy 500 points of damage. After that, we just set one and pass. In the end phase, our opponent has back to the front, which brings back his Lilith. He then tries to go into the battle phase, which he actually can now get over the blue Tang because it is at 2000 since it was not normal summon. So he does clear it, and he just passes turn. I then decide to fire off my set Cosmic on his newest set, which is a Reckless Greed, and he does decide to chain. And after that, I do activate Monster Reborn, targeting Splash Mage. Splash Mage is able to successfully revive Blue Tang here. Now that I've made it to this point, I was really looking to get into a copy of Transcode Talker. And the best thing about Transcode Talker in this particular matchup is that it can grant protection from targeting, itself and the cards that it's co-linked with and those co-linked monsters. Plus the attack boost is nice to be able to keep beating in every turn. Now, with the cards I had in my graveyard at this point, I did not have any monsters that had an up arrow, so when I would have summoned it to the EMZ, it would not have had the protection. So instead, I decided to normal summon Effect Veiler in my hand to link it into Link Karibo, and that would give an arrow pointing down, allowing my Transcode Talker to have that targeting protection right when it's summoned. So I go ahead and actually bring out the Transcode after making the Link Karibo. I swing in for some damage, and then in main phase 2, I bring out a Sea Angel in my grave, which does have a good arrow scheme to pair with the Transcode, basically making all my monsters unable to be targeted by card effects, and they are also gaining 500 attack. So it's definitely a really nice advantage to have at this point. So after that, we just pass turn. My opponent does not get to draw because he is under Reckless Greed. He then normal summons Lilith, which actually can threaten my Link Karibo in the battle phase since it is only at 800, so my opponent again does go into the battle phase. I use Link Karibo's effect here to protect, and then my opponent tributes off his Lilith to attempt to draw 2 cards, and I have a Triple Tactics Talents in my hand to be able to negate it. Very, very clutch here in the final moment. And then my opponent just goes ahead and decides to scoop it up right then and there, realizing that next turn I'm going to be able to put game on board with the amount of damage that I currently have. And yeah, I cannot believe I was actually able to play through that nightmare of a deck. Okay, so we just wrapped up our round 4 matchup, and I played against a deck that I definitely was not expecting. It was like a Layer of Darkness deck, and Forbidden Dress came in so absolutely clutch in game 1. I could not believe that game. I thought that game was going to end very, very quickly based on my opening hand. Turn after turn of not drawing any engine until I was able to get to Skipper. He torrentialed on summon. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Reborn, bring it back. He goes, he cleared the, he tributed off field with something else. And then when I reborned it, he tried to torrential, and I had the Forbidden Dress set still. Came in so insanely clutch, and I somehow ended up winning that game. And then game 2, Transcode Talker being the absolute MVP, protecting my board. Just give me a good solid chunk of monsters to end on to apply a bunch of pressure, and he was not able to get over it on the following turn, and Reckless Greed prevented him from drawing any more cards, so we were just able to win on sheer advantage and just damage in general. Really good match. Not a matchup I thought I would have done well in, but surprisingly, I think I played it pretty well, played around torrential for the most part, and overall went really, really good. Had the clutch talents in hand to negate his one trap card that lets him tribute a Dark to draw, but I think I can negate it if I reveal a spell, and luckily I had a talents in hand to reveal at the last moment to negate. Otherwise, the game could have went in his favor. And then round 3, we lost against Tri-Brigade. It is what it is. I could not draw into a Marincess monster to save my life, but, you know, it doesn't feel that bad. At least I didn't lose to an extremely bad misplay. I mean, maybe I made one. I don't know currently. I haven't watched the footage back, but I lost to just not drawing a monster, so I guess I'll take that for what it's worth. So we're going to get our first place deck profile, which is for this man right here on the Phantom Knight strategy. He's cracked. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, locals is all wrapped up. We got our first place Phantom Knight deck profile, which you guys will see, I think, next Saturday or sometime around the weekend. Overall, great tournament experience, though. Still really proud with how I played that last round. Usually I struggle against those like control decks, like just with technical play, and I'm actually really proud with how I played through his boards, both games 1 and 2. But now we're gonna go home. We're gonna get some food made up, and we'll try to film a recap. But I might film it on a later day because I gotta get to bed a little early because we gotta be up early to go drive an hour to another locals, and hopefully we can do the same thing we just did here, but better with the same deck. So I'll see you guys in just a bit. Alright everybody, welcome to the tournament recap segment of the video. We're also going to be going over some theory behind the deck here in just a minute, so stick around for that. But quickly recapping our tournament report, overall I think it went really, really well. Round 1 we 2-0'd the Beat Trooper deck, round 2 we 2-0'd DDDs, round 3 we lost 2-1 to Tri-Brigade Dogmatica, and round 4 we ended up taking a 2-0 win versus the Layer of Darkness Trap deck, which I actually am still shocked that we ended up beating. And I feel like on paper that was a deck we were kind of destined to lose against, but I guess Forbidden Dress is too OP. Now, before we move forward, I just want to reflect on some of our matches today. There's only a few things I want to talk about. One thing that happened specifically in round 2, which I think I might have already talked about, was the Bell versus Meister thing. I should have just realized that Bell was a lot better against his deck than Meister was, because he definitely could have like comboed and came back a little bit and put us in like maybe a top decking situation, and you know, maybe we would have had to have gone to a game 3 because of that. With the difference between like normaling the Meister or normaling the Bell. So again, I think I should have just kept the Bell, you know, read the game state a little bit better and understood that Bell would have been better than that of Meister. But luckily, it did not come up at the end of the day. Just something to consider going forward, because, you know, in some cases we can use a hand trap as a normal summon if we're trying to step up into an access code. And I also kind of misplayed too, because like I actually forgot about the DD Link effect, that when it is destroyed it gets to like float into another DD monster from grave or extra deck in defense. Like, it's a really strong effect, and I kind of admittedly forgot about it. So another reason to always read your opponent's cards and double check them. Even if you think you already know what they do, it doesn't hurt to pick up and read those cards. Round 3 against the Tri-Brigade deck. There was a point, I think, like, and you guys have already saw in the match footage, I think at this point, whether it was in detail or not, where like he had DD Crow and Fleur-de-Lis in hand, and I was trying my best to play through that. Like, I was really hoping, because there were several points where, like, if he would have took the bait for the Fleur or the DD Crow when I wanted him to, you know, I would have been able to play completely through his board, but I guess I just didn't sell it enough to my opponent that like I needed those effects to go through, and if he would have negated them, like he would have got it basically. So I didn't like play those mental games good enough as I probably should have, or maybe I didn't even need to, and that was just how it was going to play out regardless. But that was the only thing. And then like the instance where like I was just in a top decking situation and I just did not draw the cards I needed to draw, that really hurts, of course. But like it's better to like lose that way than to making a completely blaring misplay that outright just costs you the game that you realize a second later. Like there's literally nothing I can do if I'm not drawing the cards I need to do. It's just completely out of my control. Like if I could like, you know, be better at drawing cards, then like I would be. But you know, again, it's out of our control. Not much we can do. I guess the only thing that would have came up, because like I was able to summon Scripton and normal summon a hand trap. So like if I had like a normal like generic Link 2 that would have helped me like climb, maybe I could have done something with that. Or if I was lucky enough to have an effect baler, I could have normaled it, made Link Karibo, Link for Splash Mage if I still had one available, go for Transcode, go for Access Code, clear his stuff, and then go for game, or you know, put some pressure on. Like that could have been a possible outcome, but didn't have the level 1 hand trap to be able to go in with. So I just had to set a bell or something. But again, out of our control. And then round 4, I think there might have been one point where I played too much into a torrential and I got a little over aggressive and just again walked into torrential. But other than that, I think that match went as good as it possibly could have went. That reborn into 4-mud, into torrential, into dress was just so satisfying. I can't stop thinking about it. But other than that, those are the main things I wanted to bring up. And with the recap out of the way, time to talk about some deck building ideas and theory. This is probably going to be like my favorite part of the video, low-key. But the first talking point I have is the actual Marincess lineup itself. So 3 Blue Tang, 3 Seahorse, 3 Synap Mining, 1 1-for-1, 1 Mandarin, and 1 Skipper. I've been watching a lot of Marincess content lately on YouTube, mainly just to gauge what people are on, like what their ratios look like for Marincess monsters. Obviously, if you're going to play the deck, like it helps to open a Marincess monster, and the rest is hand traps or extenders ideally. Everybody I'm pretty sure is on the 3 Tang, 3 Seahorse, 3 Synap. I did try 2 Synap mining for a little while, and while yes, not drawing multiples was great, seeing the card less often also was not great. So we're easily back on the 3. The 1-for-1 is great. I don't think it's something I see a lot of people play, but if you're playing Mandarin, which inherently makes these cards better, playing 1-for-1 in my opinion just seems like a no-brainer, especially if you're playing a 4-mud Skipper, which is basically a 4th copy of Blue Tang, because Blue Tang, like Skipper, gets you an extender to the grave and gets your link plays started. So like I think playing Skipper is kind of a no-brainer as well. One card as well in the Marincess lineup that I see people play that I'm not personally a fan of is Pascalis. I said in a previous profile, like I don't really understand why people would play Pascalis, but I get it. It's kind of like the same reason behind why I was playing like Ready Fusion and Silent Angler, because opening the Blue Tang and the Seahorse with those water extenders, or even Mandarin, let you get into your full unaffected board, whereas opening the Pascalis with any of those water extenders, it didn't really work to get you into the full unaffected board, because like Mandarin can summon itself, Seahorse can be an extender, Blue Tang is an exception, but Blue Tang can get you an extender to like keep going into your unaffected plays. But Pascalis obviously like just can't. It doesn't get you an extender if you didn't already open one in hand to summon off of it, and it doesn't do anything in the grave as far as extending is concerned. Like maybe on the following turn it's good recovery, but it's nothing like Mandarin. So that's why I wasn't playing it with that version. But now that I'm not playing all those water extenders and trying to rely on seeing those cards together, Pascalis is seeming like a bit more enticing to play with. I don't really know what I'd cut at this point for a Pascalis. I was thinking about maybe like cutting Upstart, or maybe possibly dropping Wave to 2. The only reason I'd ever consider cutting Wave to 2 is because like going second, the card is dead. Like it doesn't help you play into boards. Like you have to like establish a board. You have to get into a Link 3 for this card to even be live. And at that point, your opponent has probably already interrupted you. So like it just doesn't seem too realistic. Like you only really want to see this card if you are going first and you get into your full board. But I think I would only play Pascalis in this build because like there isn't so many more water extenders in the deck. Like, and Pascalis with any Marincess monster is still full unaffected combo, even with Mandarin. So the only other thing is like it kind of conflicts with 4 Mud Skipper. So maybe I drop 4 Mud Skipper, but then I'd have to drop like the Scripton, which I really like Scripton in this deck. 4 Mud Skipper and Scripton are just a really good 2-card package. This card lets you low-key help recycle resources too, like putting back things like Splash Mage into your extra deck, which I'm only currently playing one, so like, I don't know. I feel like it's either Skipper or Pascalis, but maybe there's a way I can squeeze both in, because the only problem becomes like if you draw Pascalis in this, it's awkward, but if you draw Pascalis with any of these, it's not as bad. And Pascalis does have the merit of being able to add back your Battle Ocean or your Wave very early on at the start of your next turn, which can be good, especially like if you need the Wave back immediately. Like main phase you have priority, just Pascalis effect, attempt to add it back. That's going to burn something like Negate or an Interruption they may have, or may burn something in the standby phase, and then you basically have to worry about one less thing as you make more plays on your turn. Next thing I want to talk about is the hand trap lineup. Right now it's just the 3 Waves, the 1 Sword Soul. There should be 3 Meister here, but I'm getting ahead of myself. 2 Bell, 3 Meister, 3 Effect Veiler, and 3 Ash Blossom. Meister and Bell have been really great. I feel like at least at my locals, these cards have been insane. Like opening up like any combination of these hand traps is just really good. But with Sword Soul in the deck for Magician Souls, I kind of want to play a second copy because it is a good hand trap on its own. Lets us see into more cards, kind of like a Pseudo Phantasme. If anything, I'd maybe cut the Meister down to 2 for a second one. Might consider playing Ghost Mourner again to help make Sword Soul live even more. But I feel like Veiler and Wave are enough on their own, to the point where I don't really need to go out of my way to play Ghost Mourner in the main deck. But maybe, I don't know. But this hand trap lineup I think is okay. Like I said, the only tweaks would possibly be is a second Sword Soul, which again I think I might drop this to 2, or possibly a Mourner. But I don't really 100% like Mourner at the moment. Magician Souls, this card, like I didn't think this card could be as good as it is, because in the past I thought like it was just literally just a draw 2 card. And I didn't like this before, like, because I was playing a really bad target for it. I was playing Medium of the Ice Barrier, which for those that don't know what it is, I'll put a picture of it up on the screen. The only reason I was playing Medium is because it was a water monster, and for some reason I thought it would have synergy, but like it has none. This can be a hand trap going second, which Medium really can't be. Like, it can be a going second card, but like sometimes not, depending on their board. And this card, like, again, you can just make it live. But this card, like, also, like I said, can help you play through hand traps too, because of choices we have in the extra deck. And for example, like, let's say you open up Souls, dump the Sword Soul, and then you normal summon the Lutang, try to send something. If they Ash, Veiler, or Imperm this card, you can actually still do your full combo. What you want to do is actually link this into Link Karibo, and then link this into the where is it? The Sea Angel, Chainlink 1 Angel, Chainlink 2 Tang. Let's say the Tang misses, you still get your field spell. Then you link these 2 into Splash Mage. Splash Mage brings back the Tang. You link Tang into Slug. Slug gets you back Tang. You link these into Anemone, right? Anemone brings back Splash. Link these into Bubble Reef, and like you're chilling. Like you literally just did full combo off of Magician Souls and a negated Tang, which is really strong. And then if you have talents, like it's just free. You just take a look at their card in their hand and make their opening plays just a lot worse. So like Magician Souls, I'm looking at like from a different perspective now, just because like Link Karibo is a card, you can do so much more with this. And like a lot of times, like I just said in that scenario, like if your best normal gets hit with a hand trap, like you can still just play through it. Which is just awesome. Or like, and if you play 2 Sword Soul, if they Veil or Imperm your Blue Tang, you just summon a Sword Soul and then just keep going before you get locked into anything. And with that combo too, you actually use a Slug to get the starter back to your hand for next turn. The only downside is you don't get to draw 2, but like you still get to combo versus like not comboing at all. Because in order to draw 2, you'd have to like keep it on board, which you can't all the time. The next talking point I had was basically Forbidden Dress versus Crossout Designator, and I think it's going to be a no-brainer to switch to Crossout Designator over Forbidden Dress. Again, I think it's just a no-brainer there. Doesn't really take much thought. One thing I want to touch on too really quickly is previous builds of this deck I've had have been more focused on unaffected boards, where this build like really isn't so much focused on it. Mainly because like I'm playing less water extenders, so like in order for me to get into my full unaffected board, like I need to see Tang plus Seahorse, or I need to see 1-for-1, or I need to see Scripton plus Seahorse, or like Sign Up Mining, or like any combination of those cards. And like I thought like I would miss it a lot, but like ultimately Souls helps you draw into more hand traps, helps you play through more hand traps, and Talons just like punishes them for hand trapping you, which is great because you can just make their next turn worse by ripping a card. And like your combos, like even if they're unaffected, are just so much more resource efficient. Like you just can basically do everything again next turn, or possibly just OTK. So like, and there's like so many like factors that like you can't prevent with the unaffected board, like Kaiju's, Underworld Goddess, the Link 5, or spell and trap removal like Lightning Storm or Duster, which are becoming very popular. Or just like if a deck has good in-engine spot removal, like they can just banish your field spell like in Tri-Brigade or something. So that's why having the hand trap lineup is just more important. Maybe I'll miss, you know, playing more water extenders to more easily get to the unaffected board. Maybe I'll miss that at some point, but right now I think I'm okay with it. And the other thing too is the side deck I wanted to mention, another talking point. Right now it's just 3 Rivalry, 3 Cosmic, then the 3 Lancia. This card I put in recently and I think it's insane. I don't know why I wasn't playing before. It gets better with Crossout coming to the meta because since it stops that card. Then we have the 3 Phantasme, which I know a lot of people like to main this card in this deck. Some people swear by it in the main deck, but like I really haven't missed it being in the side deck. Like I think it being in the side is great. You know, maybe it'll go back into the main. And then 3 Nibiru. This card I thought I wanted to main, but like again, I think in the side deck it's working great. Like we have 9 hand traps in the side deck, so like if the hand traps we're playing with aren't that great, if they're low impact against a certain deck, like we can just kind of like swap into like a different 9 hand traps that are just better in those particular matchups. Cosmic, Rivalry, or whatever. Cosmic, like I'm playing this over Twin just because like I don't want to discard a card. Lightning Storm actually might go in instead of this, but like I don't own Lightning Storms right now, so Cosmic is the next best thing. And I still think Rivalry is better than Gozen. And like Rivalry doesn't like conflict as much with this build as it did in the past, because like you had Rare Fish and you had like a Ready Fusion and like the Silent Angler, which were fish. So like if you had a Cyber Monster on board, like those cards were dead. You could argue the same thing with Magician Souls, but like, you know, it's not as terrible. So, and like, yeah, it's not as bad. Like I thought about maybe playing There Can Be Only One, but like, I don't know, maybe that's not good either. But yeah, so that's it for that. Extra deck, I think the only thing I wanted to possibly put in here would be like a Shooting Code Talker. And the only thing I probably would cut would be the 3rd Blue Slug. Other than that, like I don't have room for anything else. And the only reason I'd want to play a Shooting Code is for those games where we need to have like a grind game, like a really good grind game. That card can help quite a bit. Like those turns where we can't quite go for our access code OTK, just being able to like get over 2 monsters and then draw 2, like sounds really, really insane, just for again continuing the grind game, keeping up the pacing. But yeah, I think the extra deck is fine outside of possibly adding a Shooting Code. Other cards, Reborn has been insane in this deck. Talents and just 2 Talents and Called By have been great. And yeah, I think that's really about it as far as like ideas that I've had on the table. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, let me know down in the comment section below. I definitely feel like another 4-0 is on the way. Deck performed really good this week. 6-2 was our record. Another 30 store credit. Gonna be playing more Dueling Book. Our technical play definitely needs a little more improvement for reasons that you'll find out in week 3. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys want to see more of my content, click on one of the videos popping up on the bottom of the screen right now. And as always, Winter Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And like always, I want to give a huge shout out to our Divine Level channel members, and they are Cadillacs84, Pony Stark, Keith Sidgers, Daryl Bess, and Tweeter0226. Thank you guys so much as always.